Welcome everybody. So as you can see, I am here with my boy AJSlabs. What's up, AJ?
Hello, everybody.
If you haven't followed him yet, please follow him on Twitch.
It's AJSlabs literally everywhere: Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram.
So we are here for a very, very special secret stream that this has been in the works for a while. AJ, why don't you tell them what we have in store for them today?
So we are going to do a little bit of a Disney podcast. We're going to be talking some Disney news. Our main topic, which tonight will be talking some Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier. I always just call it Winter Soldier because it seems easier, but it's Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then we're going to end it with telling you guys what's coming up on Disney Plus and other Disney content coming out. We're calling this Two Bros and a Mouse.
Two Bros and a Mouse. It's going to be awesome. Super, super excited for this and for, future things to come. I guess we'll start, starting with Disney news. I mean, one of the big things that they just announced is that the Avengers campus is set to open in Disneyland Anaheim, California. So that's super, super exciting. Let me see if I can maybe get some pictures of that.
I have never been to Disneyland, only Disney World.
So this will all right.
This will drive me to Disneyland.
This will drive you to Disneyland to see Avengers Campus.
Absolutely, 100%.
Disney World is so.
I do agree with that.
I
KK.
do kind of agree with that as well. All right, so hopefully that's big enough for people to see and not cover our faces. Even though you might want to cover my face. So this is Avengers
probably
Campus.
Rather look at that.
So it's gonna be super awesome. Thank you for the follow. The Queen Fee just followed. Thank you so much for the follow. But yeah, so Avengers Campus is gonna have the new and approved Tower of Terror, which is now the
Guardians of the Galaxy
Breakout. They're gonna have a bunch of other stuff going around. Basically all of the superheroes. They're gonna have Pym's Test Kitchen, so you can get food made strictly for yourself by Hank Pym, which is gonna be super, super cool. But yeah, that's gonna
I'm going through some of these pictures, and it's making me even more excited than I was.
Right, so like some of these pictures are pretty. So here's basically where Avengers Campus is gonna be in California Adventure, over in Hollywoodland, and it's definitely gonna be super, super awesome. I know they're planning like a Spider-Man ride and a couple other really cool things for Avengers Campus. But that's pretty much it for Avengers Campus. Like, it's gonna be super awesome. I don't think they have like an actual date as to when it officially opens.
I actually had it right here. I think it's June 4th.
June 4th. All right, so this year, June 4th, 2021 is when Avengers Campus opens. I think that's around the time that Disneyland is reopening. I know that they just announced that they are reopening Disneyland in California post lockdown. So that is also super, super exciting.
I forgot that Disneyland is still closed because Disney World is pretty much fully open. I guess that's the difference between Florida and California.
I mean, it is. I mean, we've been seeing Florida in the news, people burning masks and things like that. But to digress, that's not the topic of conversation tonight. But yeah, that's a little big news. Another really cool, awesome news. Why don't you take the next bit of news?
So Disney has found themselves in probably like their millionth lawsuit, probably in the last year. If I had to guess, they're probably always in lawsuits. But they are currently in a lawsuit and a fight over the Predator franchise. Apparently, 2 years ago, the authors of Predator filed to take advantage of the loophole in their transfer of copyright, which states after 35 years, they can basically say, hey, we actually want this property back. And Disney is countersuing, saying they never filed the paperwork. And that's how all this came to light. Apparently, this has been going on since like 2016, 2017, where they originally filed it.
Yeah, they originally filed it with Fox, didn't they?
Yeah, so it was when it was Fox 20th Century Studios. That's when they filed it. So when it got switched over to Disney, Disney's saying they had to refill out the paperwork, and that's basically what they're taking them to court over, is whether or not they had to refile the paperwork.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that was going on with Fox and Marvel at one point. I mean, that's how we got the absolutely atrocious, awful Fantastic Four movie.
Well, yeah, because in that contract with Fox for the Marvel properties, they had to put out a movie every certain amount of years.
Like 7 years, I think, is what it was. Every 7 years. So they were just putting out just random crap so they could keep the contract. And obviously, as big of a flop Fantastic Four was, we know exactly what happened.
It's probably one of the only Marvel movies that I've never seen.
And you are not missing much. Let me tell you, I saw it in theater, and it was literally, seriously, the worst, biggest waste of time I've ever had, biggest waste of money. Not even worth watching. Which is really sad because it could have been like super, super awesome.
I will still say the original Fantastic Four movies, though, they hold a special place in my heart. As bad as they are, they're like good bad.
They absolutely do. Like Jessica Alba, like as Susan Storm, let's go.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for this. They're just, I wonder what's going to happen because Disney obviously probably has a lot more money than Jim and John Thomas.
I think they definitely do have a lot more money than the Thomas brothers do.
But yeah, this will be interesting to see how it kind of plays out because obviously they probably did fill out the paperwork, so it's basically going to come down to it's probably going to come to a settlement, if anything.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then another big news in the Disney verse is that Alfred Molina, aka Doc Ock, in the original Spider-Man 2, which in my personal humble opinion is probably the best Spider-Man movie ever created.
We'll have to fight about that at some point.
We're going to have to talk about that. He has confirmed that he is returning as Dr. Octavius in Spider-Man No Way Home, which is huge for the Marvel cinematic universe, because just like the implications of having a character from this alternate Spider-Verse coming into the current Disney Sony Spider-Verse is just like huge.
Or his name is just going to be Ralph Boner Sr.
True. But like it makes you wonder because like I know like they've been talking about getting Tobey Maguire back as well as Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro in Spider-Man in the new Spider-Man. So there's a lot of like different things that could go on in this movie, especially with Doctor Strange also being involved.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about this because I I mean, first of all, basically what he said in the interview was that it was going to take place directly after Spider-Man 2. So it's like his adventure right after Spider-Man 2, which I guess the way that ends, it kind of makes sense. Like he could get sucked into that thing and be transported to a different universe. But it's like I know the original plan was to have Doctor Strange come out before Spider-Man, but I think having this come out before we go into the whole multiverse with Doctor Strange and learn more about it, I feel like it's going to open up some plot holes. And I'm a little worried about them bringing in too many characters from the past to overshadow Tom Spider-Man. What's his last name? Holland.
Am
I wrong?
Yeah, Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I had a blank on that.
One of the things that I guess kind of makes me really excited about the potential for this movie is simply how successful and how amazing Into the Spider-Verse was.
And that's what kind of worries me a little bit, because if they're going to do things like that, I'd rather them do it in the Spider-Verse sequel than do it in MCU Spider-Man, because I think it could be handled better in animation than in live action.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of things that are better in animation. This probably is one of those things. Everyone knows that DC films are also better in animation. But I'm interested to see how Tom Holland's character evolves and what other characters within the current MCU we might see, because there's, he just got accused, just at the end of 2, he just got accused of murder, right? He just got accused of murdering Mysterio, which means he's going to be on trial, which means he's going to need a lawyer. And who in the Marvel universe do we know that is a lawyer and has been a lawyer for supers?
So and that's the other part that worries me too, because I'd rather them focus on that storyline that they set up at the end of Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. And yeah, bring in Daredevil, bring in the Defenders for that, but you're gonna have Daredevil, you're gonna have Doc Ock. I have a feeling Tobey Maguire is gonna show up in this at some point. Andrew Garfield might show up in this. It's gonna I feel like I'm a little worried that the film might be a little too packed, and especially because Sony still has control of this film. Mm-hmm. I trust MCU, but I don't trust Sony with Spider-Man.
See, but and that's, while yes, Sony does have control over this film, Marvel and Sony are collaborating together on this because they have to, because there's equal share in the Spider-Man universe with Tom Holland Spider-Man being part of the MCU, and Disney, owning all of the merchandising rights and some of the other kind of rights. And
what worries me though is I have a feeling what happened was they were in the writing room trying to come up with what would happen, and somebody from Sony said, well, let's bring somebody from one of our old films so we can make sure that they still know this is a Sony film.
Probably. And I mean, there's also the talk about Venom showing up too. Mm-hmm. Which would be definitely interesting. We might see symbiote Spider-Man again, like we did in Spider-Man in the unmentionable Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, see, I would honestly again, another character that could possibly show up in this. That's, again, my biggest worry is that it gets overpowered. I know we've seen Marvel handle a lot of characters, obviously, in one film, but this being specifically a Spider-Man movie, I'd rather the focus be on Tom Holland's Spider-Man in this film, and then maybe do an event film that's separate from this film. I think this is too quick after Endgame and too kind of quick into the... I mean, I know this is going to be his third solo film, and his 6th or 7th appearance in the MCU, but it still feels so early in this Spider-Man's journey for the MCU that I'd rather see this later on than right now. And maybe they are using maybe they'll just be Doc Ock that shows up and they do set this up for that event in the future, and that's what I would be okay with. I think I'm fine with Doc Ock showing up, but I think if Tobey Maguire and other characters from that universe start showing up in this film and not just at the end as a cameo, I think that's where it's going to get a little too crowded.
No, I do see where you're coming from. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I've been like so hesitant about like what is in the future for the Marvel Cinematic Universe is mainly how they're gonna take this sort of phase in the future, because when you're dealing with the multiverse, there's a lot of variables you have to deal with, mainly dead characters coming back.
And that's definitely, I mean, another worry with this is you kind of get rid of his sacrifice arc at the end of Spider-Man 2.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping, obviously, that they just keep him kind of going down a hero path. I kind of could see like maybe he runs into himself, like the main villain is Doc Ock from the MCU universe, and it's him like, listen, I learned from this mistake, don't make the same mistakes. That could be a kind of cool arc if they do that kind of thing. That
would be a kind of cool arc.
Yeah, it really will be interesting to see what they do with Spider-Man, because of all the rumors that came out like a few months ago, it is starting to worry me that it might be an overpacked film. And we've learned from Spider-Man movies that that's not a good thing.
No, it's not, because, you know, that's what happened with Spider-Man 3. You got Sandman, you had Venom, you had the Venom symbiote, you know. And it was too much all in one movie, and it just was an awful movie. Anyways, moving on.
All right, so let's talk about the announcement from Pixar. I think it was. Let me just double check. Was it Pixar or was it Disney Animation? No, it was just Disney Animation. So they're on May 28th. They're going to be releasing 6 short films. All are going to be from filmmakers of different backgrounds, which I think is amazing. I think, let me see, I had the names listed here. So the first one is going to be called American Eid, directed by, I'm going to butcher this.
Axa Althoff, I think.
Yeah. Yep. And then you got Dinner Served by Housing, Growing Fangs, written and directed by Anne-Marie Pace, and The Last of the Chupacabras, written and directed by Jessica Mendez Siqueiros, and Let's Be Tigers, written and directed by Stephanie Abel Horowitz. Oh, and the last one is The Little Princesses, written and directed by Moxie Pang. So I think this is, honestly, I feel like Disney's doing a lot to start doing a lot more diversity and inclusion, which I think we'll talk a little bit about when we get in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I think they're calling it Launchpad. Is
what
they're calling it, which is super cool. Just amplifying those unrepresented voices within the film industry. And it looks like they're all going to be on Disney Plus too.
Yeah, so I think all 6 are coming on the same day on May. I have the date right here, May 28th. But this is kind of like also what they've been doing a lot at Pixar for the last couple of years, because there have been a lot more films from diverse directors and filmmakers coming out of Pixar for the short films recently. So I kind of like this direction.
I definitely do too. And I'm just going to read something that's written in this article. It says, the films will cover a wide array of topics like the struggle to fit in, which I definitely struggle with sometimes, the pressures to be perfect, the importance of preserving culture, dealing with loss, and cultural influences of sexuality and gender. which is really interesting because I don't think many of the short films that I have seen coming out of Disney and Pixar have really addressed any of those topics.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only one that I can really think about, and I can't think of the name right now, but there was one that recently came out. I think it was before Incredibles 2 of it. But there was one there that kind of dealt with like growing up in a different country with like looking at American ideals.
I think I
can't think of what
remember
it's
the one
called.
you're talking about, but I can't remember the name either.
But really, that's the only one that I can think of. So honestly, this is a really good direction, I think, for Disney.
I do too, especially with the kind of like, you know, the issues that they've been having, like with the head guy from Pixar like a couple years ago.
Oh, John Lasseter, yeah.
Yeah, John Lasseter.
It was called Sanjay's Super Team.
Sanjay's Super Team. Okay.
I got there eventually.
That was what it was called? Okay. Gotcha.
So that's pretty much all I had for news. Did you have anything else?
No, that's pretty much everything I had. All
right, so let's get into the bulk of it then.
Exactly.
I think, right?
Let's get to the meat, the meat of the conversation.
I have a lot to talk about here.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we are going to be talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is Disney Plus's newest Marvel show that they did just release. If you have not watched it and do not want spoilers, you know, just give us a lurk, mute the tab, and hang out while we talk about it.
Spoil the shit out of it.
Because it is going to be awesome.
So should we just kind of start with our like initial thoughts of the first 5 episodes?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to do is just talk about like what we thought of the first 5 episodes. Honestly, the first 2 episodes were kind of slow for me. I'm not gonna lie, and it definitely picked up in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th episode. One of the things that I did really appreciate, which I'm sure we're gonna go into, is how much they were touching on subjects that haven't been touched before, mainly real life things that are happening in the United States today. But what about you, AJ? What did you think of the first 5 episodes?
I disagree with you about the first 2 episodes. Honestly, the first episode, the fact that it was slow is what hooked me, because coming into this, I was mainly interested in the Captain America aspect of it. I didn't really have an attachment to Bucky or Falcon as characters, because really in Winter Soldier, in Civil War, and even Endgame and Infinity War, I mean, they were very more Falcon than Bucky, but they were very underutilized characters, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Really, Bucky or Falcon was just kind of there in Winter Soldier to be the guy that Steve could lean on when he can't really trust anybody else. And Bucky, we really haven't seen normal Bucky since Captain America: The First Avenger.
Right. So I guess for me, like the first episode and kind of going on to the second episode, my main issues with those 2 episodes was they were reflecting a lot on events that happened in Civil War, which in my humble opinion is the worst Marvel movie to date.
Well, I think we definitely have some differing opinions on that as well, because
definitely probably do. The only reason is like because there are certain things that I found troubling with Civil War, just mainly because Zemo is not supposed to be the main villain.
So do you mainly not like Civil War because it's very different than the Civil War comic?
Yes and no. So one of the things that I like, there were certain elements that were pretty close to the comics, just because of you know, Black Panther and Spider-Man and all of those elements that were there. But my main issue with Civil War was how they didn't make Cap more of the villain. Because that is the whole point of Civil War, is to, yes, there was the division between Iron Man and Cap at near the end, but that division is supposed to be so much larger, and that is what drives the rest of Marvel history after Civil War, and there wasn't enough of that division for me.
Yeah, so honestly, whenever I go see a Marvel movie and it's named after a big comic event, I go into it just like expecting a whole new story, because I feel like that's what Marvel attaches these names to their movies, I think, just to drive in crowd, which they don't really need to do because people will go see it anyway. And I'm hoping we'll see less of that as it goes on. But I actually really enjoy Civil War because of what it does from an MCU standpoint. I think if they had at that early on in Marvel, which I know that was 7 years in, but it still feels pretty early on in Marvel because it's right after the second Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. I feel like if they did something as big as Civil War, like in the comics, I don't think it would have been as good. And I think if they stuck too close to the comic, I think people would have hated it because of the things they had to leave out, like X-Men. Honestly, I feel like they probably would have left out a lot more Spider-Man stuff too, because I don't think they knew they had Spider-Man really until they filmed that scene with Spider-Man. So I think that's why we only got like 30 minutes of Spider-Man in that. Yeah,
you were right there, because they were still in negotiations with
Mm-hmm.
Sony at the time, and we almost didn't get Spider-Man in the movie at all.
Right. So I think that, I honestly think that them staying away from Civil War, like not going directly with what the comic is, I think that makes it a better film. I definitely understand, because that comic is amazing and wonderful, and I've read it so many times. I just don't. I think they use the name to get people hyped about what it could be, but then created a new story that I think works way better for the MCU than the Civil War comic would have. We're kind of getting off on a tangent, not talking about Winter.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It is one of the problems I have with superhero movies, mm-hmm. especially like Marvel and, on the other hand, DC as well, is because I'm so much of a comic book nerd. I've mm-hmm. read all of the big events, and so I know what I would want in a big event movie, and Civil War just didn't hit that for me. But going back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, like when one of the points that really hooked me, like once I saw it and I was hooked, was when John Walker first was given the shield, because I was like, I'm invested now. This guy should not have this shield. What the hell? Why does he have the shield? It was given to the museum. Like, why are they doing this to Captain America's image and his legacy?
Right. Yeah, and oh my God, we are definitely later on going to talk a lot more about John Walker. And as much as I hate his character, like who he is, I love his character. Like, I love what they're doing with his character.
Absolutely. And we'll get more into that when we start talking about the latest episode. I have a lot to say about the last episode. But I guess another thing, we touched on was the heavy topics mm-hmm. that Falcon and Winter Soldier have been touching.
When we're first introduced to Isaiah Bradley, oof.
Right? Like, first introduced to Isaiah Bradley, and And when you have the interaction between the cop and Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, like,
just went for it.
Just went for it. And like, I was half expecting Bucky to like drop that cop. Just the way that he, you know, he went after it when the cop started harassing Sam.
Yeah, I as soon as that happened, I had no idea how that scene was going to end. Pretty surprised that Bucky was the one that ended up getting carried out in handcuffs, but it is like, damn.
That was what, and then the stark difference between how the cop approached Bucky getting taken away with handcuffs and how it all started with, you know, the police officer approaching Bucky.
Oh, and the immediate turnaround when he figured out he was Falcon.
Immediate turnaround. Like, oh, sorry, you're this famous, you're a superhero, oh, my bad, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was.
It was just, and then he just goes over and whispers, you know, Mr. Barnes, I'm really, really sorry, but we're gonna have to take you away because you've got a warrant out for your arrest because you missed counseling.
But if it turned out that Sam had a warrant for his arrest, I doubt it would be as smooth as that was.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Like, if it had been Sam that had the warrant for his arrest, the entire situation would have been different.
Oh,
and yeah. I know, you know, as, you know, two white males, like, this is, you know, this is like completely the wrong topic for us to talk about. But I just feel like we have to, because of how, like...
Well, the show is basically, I mean, you can't talk about the show, I think, without talking about this. Exactly.
And just the elements throughout the show, how much it reflects on those elements and what is going on in...
Well, they set the perfect example in this newest episode. And I know we're going to talk more about the newest episode, but on this topic, I mean, when he's talking to Isaiah Bradley about what went wrong, Isaiah Bradley did the exact same thing that Steve Rogers did in Captain America First Avenger. He went to a prisoner of war camp and he broke the prisoners out. Mm-hmm. That's what made people love Steve Rogers and made him Captain America, and it's what got Isaiah Bradley arrested.
And that's the difference, because it was a white man who broke orders, and essentially was a court-martialable offense for disobeying orders from a general. Risks life and limb to rescue these prisoners of war and bring them all back. He's awarded with, you know, Medal of Valor, Medal of Honor, all of these awards, and Isaiah Bradley's arrested.
Yeah. As soon as he said it, he went to a prisoner of war camp, I was like, wow, it's literally the exact same thing that Steve did. And it's literally the first act as Captain America Steve does.
Exactly.
It is honestly wild that Marvel is going into this, and I'm very happy to see it.
I am too. I'm really, really excited. And then, you know, we get to Mariposa, and just the grimy, dirty streets of there. Also, backtracking a little bit, the Flag Smashers. Like, Disney does a very good job making you sympathize with the Flag Smashers.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Marvel has definitely approved upon in their more recent stuff, is making the villain side of things sound like it makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
but just the way that they're doing it is wrong. Like the perfect example, I mean, Black Panther, even what was the guy named Black Panther? The guy played by Michael B. Jordan.
Oh yeah. Killmonger.
Yeah, Killmonger. He I mean, that's a perfect example right there. His ideals are basically right. It's just the way he's going about them are very incorrect. And very similar. I mean, Thanos, he's got ideas that make sense, but the way he goes about it doesn't make any sense. And they're doing the exact same thing here with Flag Smashers. And I think they fixed the villain problem that they had early on.
Yeah, no, they definitely did that. They were definitely able to fix the villain problem. And
if you go back to some of those older films, it's just like the villains are just the opposite of the hero. And it
take for example, the Incredible Hulk with not with Banner, the other one, the one that had
the one with Abomination. Yeah,
like you don't sympathize with him at all.
No,
he is a dirty, slimy.
But they could have made him the same kind of character that they made John Walker.
Exactly. They could have. But they didn't. They just, made him unlikable, completely unlikable. But with John Walker and with the Flag Smashers, you can relate to their mission, to why they are doing it, what drives them.
And I think that's where Disney or where Marvel's benefiting from the Disney Plus shows, because you have this amount of time to get to know John Walker. You get this amount of time to know the Flag Smashers. Like if this was a 2-hour movie, I don't think we would sympathize with the Flag Smashers, and I think we probably wouldn't sympathize at all with John Walker, to be honest, because they probably would have just done the same thing they did with him in Incredible Hulk. With the Abomination, they would have just made him probably a power hungry person. But I do like that they kind of are using this 6-episode arc to show us the bad guy side and to show us like what's motivating their decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, I think even with if you had more time in Civil War with Zemo, I think you would have liked Zemo more before this show where now I love Zemo. Like Zemo's
character right now in this show is absolutely amazing. The only thing I have a bone to pick is they pretty much retconned his origin from Civil War.
They did, but they did it in a way that I thought made sense. So I'm okay with the changes they made because they're kind of trying to make him more comic book accurate, but also trying not to take too much away from what they set up in Civil War, which I do like that in this episode he goes back to Sokovia just to see the memorial because he hadn't been there yet since it happened.
Is it just me, or did the memorial look eerily similar to him? Like the man standing behind the family?
I thought the same thing at my second watch through of it, and I don't know if that was intentional or they were like, oh, Sokovians probably look like Zemo.
let's just put them in a box with Zemo. No,
but it was also clearly a budget set. I will say that was like one of the few sets on this that did not look great.
No.
Which I think this was probably a scene that was filmed after COVID, if I had to guess.
Probably. No, Zemo definitely became a much more relatable sort of anti-hero almost.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I really liked him in Civil War. I just thought he got overshadowed by everything else that was going on. But I think if you didn't have the Civil War aspect and you just had him as a villain in that movie, I thought he was an excellent villain. Basically, I think his motivations in that movie were driven well with the whole Sokovia thing, and they carry on into this show pretty well.
I agree.
And I like that he has a code. His code is no superhumans.
I mean, not necessarily no superhuman. It's just no super soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's more like no one with extraordinary power that they can do whatever they want. They like power needs to stay in check.
Speaking of power, let's talk about the power broker.
Who do you think it is?
One of my speculations is that it's Ross.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the ones that I can get more behind as well.
Mainly just because of his like need to have the super soldier serum, as well as how Agent Carter has interacted, within the couple episodes that she's been in.
Yeah, and I think they could do something really good with it too if it is him, because I mean we have 6 or 5.5 years basically where we don't know what Ross was up to. We don't know if he was zapped or blipped, or we don't know if he was on Earth, maybe trying to make the serum because that guy got zapped during it.
I don't think he was zapped, because if I remember right, oh no, that was before the snap.
Yeah, we didn't see him in Endgame other than at Tony's funeral.
Right, so we don't know what he had been doing the 5 years or whatnot.
But maybe because he knew that other guy, I mean, that guy that got blipped who was making the serum, like he knew that serum was possible. It's possible that he moved over with him and was trying to find people that would be able to work on it.
But like, my other thing is like, I still honestly think he's still in like the part of the U.S. government. I still think he holds his position in the Pentagon, or wherever he was, post Civil War. Department of Defense, I think.
Yeah, that's what he was.
He was the head of the Department of Defense. I still think he holds some power in the U.S. government, and he's using what's going on over on the island as sort of like a shadow hand. My other thought is that it's Kingpin.
And that was another theory I heard. That one, I'm trying to think from, because I know they're probably going to go with a different, they're probably going to say Daredevil is not canon, but the last we saw of him, he was in jail, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, but I'm wondering if, like, when we finally start seeing Daredevil and Daredevil characters show up, if they're going to say that that's canon and that's not canon. That'll be interesting to see how they handle that. But if it is canon, I could kind of see it, but I also could kind of see him just more dealing with stuff of that in New York, and probably seeing him as in Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man or something like that, more than him being the power broker. Because I mean, I don't really think he would be dealing too much with serum from the character that we've seen from Daredevil.
Right. Yeah. I mean, him, and then my last theory of him of Sharon actually being the power broker are probably the two weakest theories I've heard. The strongest is Ross being the power broker, and kind of in like, shadow government type of situation. My
reasons for it not being Sharon is kind of the same reason where I could kind of see it not being Ross, and I can honestly see them saving Ross and using him with Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character for more American government stuff there, and not actually having anything to do with the power broker.
Yes.
But it's that one thing that Zemo said in the 3rd episode where he's talking about he knows the power broker by reputation, but he's been in jail for 6 years. Actually, it'd be 8 years at this point. So the whole time Sharon's on the run, and the whole time that we don't know about Ross, he's in jail. So if the power broker came to power in that time period, then it would have to be like he found out about it while he was in
jail,
lockdown. Yeah. Which I could see that being a possibility, but I mean, he's locked up, he's being monitored, he's high priority. I don't really see him getting any information that way.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, let's talk more about John Walker.
Well, real quick before getting to that, I do want to say my speculation is that it's a character from the X-Men comics. I don't know who it could be.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be, it might be, because, I mean, that island is from Wolverine comics. It's big with Wolverine. Mm-hmm. I could almost see it being Stryker.
See, that would be interesting if it was Stryker.
Mm.
Just because the implications of it being Stryker are huge. Especially when you tie in X-Men and Wolverine and all those. So
that's like I could see it the most being an X-Men character, or a character we haven't seen before, but that is well known in the comics. I mean, I could even see it possibly being Victor Doom. I don't think it will be. It's like one of the weaker ones that I'm thinking, but I could see them using this to introduce him. I don't think they will, but
I don't think they will, because I think they're planning on introducing Reed Richards in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse.
Yeah. But honestly, I can kind of see them, I mean, introducing all the characters from the Fantastic Four in different films, and then finally seeing them come together in their own film. Yeah. I can see them kind of doing something like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a character that hasn't appeared in the MCU yet, but that a lot of people know.
Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, you know, Dreyfuss's character also is a big character in the MCU that no one has seen yet. So that was definitely exciting to see her. But
when I saw it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I lost my mind. I was so excited.
She does it so well too. But the character she's playing, it's Madam Hydra. Mm-hmm. And so like there's a lot that you can do with Madam Hydra and John Walker, you know, fully becoming US agent.
I think they're going to use her to start as like a reverse Nick Fury. Like I think they're using this to set up the Thunderbolts using because she's supposed to be in Black Widow, mm-hmm. and I think she's going to honestly appear at the end to recruit oh god, I can't think of the character's name, but the character in that movie that ends up joining the Thunderbolts in the comics.
Yeah.
So I really think they're going to be utilizing her as a reverse Nick Fury, which I'm super excited for. I think kind of almost like a Coulson level character.
Oh, Coulson.
Which we haven't seen for a while, which is funny because they were married in Old Adventures of New Adventures of Old Christine.
Yes, they were.
But yeah, let's talk some John Walker.
Yes.
Some Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker. I hate him and love him at the same time.
Oh my god, what they're doing with that character, and I hope, like you said, I hope they kind of utilize him in the future with a Thunderbolts team. Mm-hmm. Like I hope he doesn't go away at the end of this episode, because I think he will make for a good villain. Or a good anti-hero.
Good anti-hero. And just like when his partner gets thrown across the room and, you know, dies, even though technically according to the laws of physics he shouldn't have died, because there wasn't enough force to snap his neck, and he never even touched his neck. But then just the paranoia that he had already started to have before he took the serum, reflects on the point that the serum magnifies who you truly are. Like, you know, what he said, the power shows you who you really are. It just amplifies who you really are. And that's what the serum does. It amplifies who the person truly is that takes it. That's why Steve Rogers was Steve Rogers and was Captain America, because he truly is a good person.
And
what I really love about what they're doing with this character is they basically gave him the same setup that Steve Rogers had. Like when Steve Rogers first became Captain America, they had him doing like tours around America to make everyone feel happy, like he was the icon of America. They were doing the same thing with John Walker at the beginning of episode 2 to the same song. That's definitely not a coincidence.
No, it's not.
But then you have like that one line about the grenade where I think it was Bucky was like, have you ever jumped on a grenade? And he makes a joke out of it and says, yeah, no, I do it all the time to reinforce my helmet. Where with Steve Rogers, jumping on a grenade means something. It means he's sacrificing. He knows he's not going to come out of this, where John Walker's kind of like Iron Man in that aspect, where he's got a backup. He's got something to make sure he survives it.
Exactly. No, go ahead.
And then with the, there was another one, but with the death of Lamar, it basically echoes where Steve Rogers was mentally at the death of Bucky. But instead of going in.
Like instead of going, this crazy rage-filled roid rage and killing, essentially an innocent person.
Mm-hmm.
Steve goes on and then sacrifices himself.
Right. He basically does it in the name of Bucky to honor Bucky instead of just murdering the Red Skull and the guy that what's his name? The little German guy with the glasses. I can't think of his name, but like I could see them like thinking, oh, this is the guy that that John Walker killed is basically that guy to Steve Rogers.
Yep. And one of the things that I really found interesting is when he was at the trial, at the hearing, he says, "You made me this way."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the difference between another big difference between Steve and John is the army didn't make him into Captain America. He already was Captain America.
Right. And I think that also kind of that line goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier with the more heavy stuff. I mean, basically they're kind of showcasing too that the government hasn't changed since the 1940s because they wanted to do this exact same thing with that other guy in the same training that Steve was in because they thought he was a better candidate. He had more medals just like John Walker has. He had more of a past in fighting. He wasn't a tiny little scrawny guy like Steve Rogers is. So it's basically showing their motivations haven't changed in a 90-year period.
And they haven't. And they never truly will. And just I honestly did think that stripping him of his retirement was a little harsh.
Oh, it did. It should have been way harsher than that. I think he got off way too easy.
You think he got off too easy? Okay.
I think he got off. He practically murdered a person in cold blood. The guy was defenseless. He was surrendering, and he whacked him.
Okay. Yeah. You make a good point that he did get off. He did get off way too easy.
Bring it back to our conversation earlier. Imagine if it was Sam that did that.
If it was Sam, he would have had a public court-martial.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been thrown into jail and remained there with no chance of parole. But because it is John Walker and because he is a white male, essentially giving him a less than honorable discharge. Or other than honorable discharge, which honestly is just a dishonorable discharge.
With a fancier name.
Just a fancier name. And stripping him of his retirement and his benefits and all that. That's basically is a slap on the wrist. Compared to what would have happened if it had been Sam. Or even Isaiah.
Exactly. I mean, he definitely did not deserve the retirement. I'm glad they took that away, but he should have ended up locked up. I mean, he basically committed a war crime.
He did, because he didn't have any jurisdiction. Speaking of jurisdiction, the Wakandans coming in and John Walker just be like, girls, leave it to the big boys. I got this. And then they just completely handing him his ass on a platter.
That was beautiful. And your segue into this topic is actually the one thing that I didn't like about the scene was when she says they have jurisdiction wherever they are. That sounds like something John Walker would say.
It does say, it does sound like something John Walker would say.
And I'm wondering if in Black Panther sequel we kind of see Wakanda going over their boundaries and having to be put in check.
I'm thinking that is because they've lost T'Challa. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. And the country has essentially been given to this young teenage girl who has no idea how to run a country. And
pretty much none of them have been outside of Wakanda for very long. They really don't know much about the outside world. I think it will be, I'm thinking that line was intentional, the way she sounded for that kind of purpose. I'm hoping, because that really does sound like something like a character like John Walker, because you can hear John Walker saying that, like going to Carly and be like, Carly's like, well, you don't have any jurisdiction here. Captain America has jurisdiction wherever Captain America finds himself.
Wherever the shield is, Captain America has jurisdiction. Exactly. But going into Carly and how Sam was talking her down. He was almost there, and John Walker is like, bitch, please. You don't know what you're doing.
That's going back into what you said earlier about Steve Rogers was already Steve Rogers. Sam is already Sam. He knows people. He obviously, from his small town, he's grown up with people. He understands people. He understands why they're maybe doing things that he doesn't necessarily agree with, but he understands maybe why they're going and resorting to that action. I mean, he even understands talking with Isaiah Bradley, having that conversation with him. He gets why Isaiah Bradley is done, why he doesn't want to come out, but he doesn't necessarily agree with his ideals on Sam becoming the next Captain America.
Yeah, it definitely. And like the struggle that Sam has trying to decide, do I take up the shield or not?
Right. And I don't think that would ever be a conversation in John Walker's head.
No, it wouldn't. And he's at the end, he's picking up the shield and taking the shield, not just to honor Steve's legacy, but to honor Isaiah's legacy as well, and to show them that a black man can be Captain America. There is nothing stopping him from being Captain America.
Was there anything sadder though than him like cradling the shield when it was full of blood and wiping the blood off?
No.
That was a heavy moment, because it was in that moment that he realized like Steve's legacy was just destroyed.
Died. Yeah. Captain America is done. And then also the interaction between Bucky and Sam at the end, where he's like, Steve and I never realized how difficult it would be for a black man.
That was some writing that I didn't expect from Marvel.
I didn't either, and it almost, because Marvel actors and Marvel movies are notorious for ad lib, especially Robert Downey Jr. Almost, a bunch of ad lib just going on. Like Endgame, when he's confronting Captain America, the liar he says, that's not in the actual script.
Mm-hmm.
That's just Robert Downey Jr. being Robert Downey Jr. Or in Avengers, the snacks. Like that is that is Robert Downey Jr. being Robert Downey Jr. You almost want to know what lines in that movie or in the show are actual written lines, or just Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan taking everything they're being given in stride and just saying what they actually, saying what they actually think. Because that line sounds like something that Sebastian Stan would just be like, pull out of his head.
Yeah. Like how would we know how, when he says that was just like, I didn't expect Marvel to be like, how would somebody like Captain America and Bucky understand somebody like Sam? How could they? They didn't have to go through those same structures. Yeah. I like that they went into that. And honestly, if Sebastian Stan does not get an Emmy for this show, I'm going to be very upset.
I will too. Like Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan both need Emmys for this show.
Especially for the scene I think we're going to get next week from him. I think that's going to be...
I'm so excited. But it's just like the heavy topics that are just throughout this show.
Especially coming off the heels of WandaVision.
Yeah, especially coming off the heels of WandaVision, which was all happy-go-lucky, like, oh, look at me, I'm depressed, so I reanimated my dead husband.
That show did do very well going through grief, but like they did it in a very lighthearted way, where this is going into topics not very lighthearted.
No, not very lighthearted at all, and really sticking it to you and pulling on your heartstrings every single time it's brought up. Like, holy crap, what they're talking about is actual important stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like pretty much every episode for Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's been at least one point where it's like, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But probably, I think the last thing we really haven't talked about is what's in the box.
What is in the box?
What's in the box?
Like, is it just another set of Falcon wings, or is it like a full uniform?
I think it's a shield.
You think it's a shield?
I think he might be getting his own shield. I think with what happened with that shield, I think it wouldn't surprise me to have them just give him a new shield to start his own legacy as Captain America.
It wouldn't surprise me either. Just because the shield literally has blood on it now.
Mm-hmm. So that's my theory. If it's not just a suit, I think I could see it easily just being a suit, hopefully with wings.
Yeah.
And just made out of the same material that that Black Panther's is, because he's obviously not going to take the super soldier serum. He's going to need that advantage of the vibranium suit. So I could see that as well.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. And, new vibranium wings and all that. One of the other things besides the box is, what's the Bartok angle?
You cut out there. The what?
The French mercenary, the Bartok. What's the angle with him? Like, what is he like? Because you heard Shannon talking to him on the phone.
So that was who Sharon was talking to, right?
That is who she was talking to. So there's some kind of plan going on between Sharon and Bartok and the super kids. But what it is, I'm interested to see I'm interested to see what it is in episode 6.
Do you think he's got super soldier serum in him?
I don't think he has super soldier serum in him, just because it's all gone.
Well,
but I'm wondering if
the one that was made by that one guy is all gone.
Right.
But do we think they put all their eggs in one basket?
Probably not.
And actually that'll bring us to something we'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, I think I could see them having like gotten what the other guy created, and we're using that to make other stuff, and also using Banner's research. And if it is Ross has a ton of research. I could see maybe he does have something, but as far as his angle, I think basically he's going to be a way of introducing us to the power broker and bringing Carly into the power broker. He's probably, I think they just kind of mercenary for hire, basically.
But the other thing is like, is he really there to kill Falcon, or is he there? Is Sharon paying him enough to not want to kill Falcon?
Will definitely be interesting to see. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe does Sharon want Falcon dead? I hope not. Know. But
that's it, because like, is she too comfortable in her lifestyle right now?
Do you think Sharon got snapped? We haven't been told that yet. I'm hoping we're told that, but do you think she got snapped? Because I don't.
I think she's been living on the island since
7 years.
For 7 years.
Yeah.
So she's established herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because basically where she is way more than what she could get out of 2 years.
Exactly.
2.5 years. And definitely coming back for only 6 months. So yeah, I don't think she was, and that's why I don't think she's the power broker, but she's definitely working for the power broker.
And I don't think she realizes who the power broker actually is.
And that could be possible too.
So,
but there was actually another thing that I thought about: the end credit scene from episode 5, where John Walker is making his own shield.
Yep.
Do you think that's just metal, or do we think that's
stolen vibranium?
No, adamantium.
Adamantium?
Yeah.
I'm thinking it. Now that you've brought it up, I think it might be adamantium.
I mean, I just really don't think he would be that stupid to just make a metal shield out of regular metal.
Yeah, no, I'm completely there with you. Like, I don't think he's that stupid to do that either. But, and also, the connection with Madam Hydra, he would probably have access to adamantium.
Especially if she ends up being the power broker, which I don't think she will be, but if she has a connection with the power broker, if she is the power broker, I could see her with the connection to was it Madripoor?
Madripoor, yeah.
Yeah, with her connection to Madripoor, I could see maybe that coming up that way.
Yeah, no, adamantium mixed with his metals make, fully immersing himself in the US agent persona is definitely going to be something to look forward to in the next episode.
Because if he's just going up against vibranium with steel, like, what does he think is going to happen?
I don't know.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that fight, because it's looking like it's going to be like a 3-way fight where Carly's fighting both John Walker and Sam. Sam's fighting both Carly and John Walker, and John Walker is fighting both Carly and Sam.
Just a 3-way.
Yeah. And I hope, obviously for obvious reasons, because his name is in the title, I'm hoping Winter Soldier's in that final fight, but I'm wondering like if we're going to see early on the confrontation with that guy whose son he killed and then have Sam call him. Because I
was wondering too, like, are we going to see him?
Yeah. Are we going to see him
book?
Fight?
because
Yeah.
Mr. Yamaguchi or whatever.
Well, we're definitely going to see that conversation after his conversation with Sam about it. So I definitely think we're going to see that. But it's like, is he actually going to be part of the fight, or is he going to is it going to be like, oh, something he did as a Winter Soldier actually has a connection to all of this, and that he is actually doing a separate thing, helping this?
It's possible.
Mm-hmm. But I had another thing about Bucky. I thought I lost it. I feel like there was something else I was gonna say. I lost it.
Him flirting with Sam's sister.
Oh my god, I lost
great.
it. I am very happy that they're bringing back that the Bucky humor from First Avenger.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he was just a funny guy in that movie.
He really was.
And then he becomes Winter Soldier, and you haven't really seen that humor at all again until this show.
And he's just like, "Hey," and she's like, "Hey,"
and Sam's just like, "What the hell is this 105-year-old doing with my sister?"
Exactly. It just goes.
I
don't flirt with my sister, or I'll kill you.
Honestly, I was worried that we weren't going to get back to like the boat stuff and the sister stuff, because it was kind of seeming like we were just going. These last 3 episodes have all been about the finding Carly and all that. So I'm kind of glad that this episode kind of brought it back to the first episode. 105 or not, I'd still that.
Hey, dude,
yeah.
I mean, Smash and Stan, let's go.
I'm glad they gave him a haircut. I'll just say that.
I did too. I was like, thank you. No more shaggy white wolf. Speaking of Bucky, one of the last things I want to touch on is during the scene with the Wakandans, how quickly he just gave up when she disabled his arm.
I mean, he had no idea that they could do that, probably, and he was honestly probably in shock that was there, and that I also saw a theory that was like, his arm is so attached to the fighting style that he learned as Winter Soldier, is that like once that was disconnected from him, it brought him back to the Wakanda state of mind that he was in when he didn't have his arm, where he was just back at peace and not not fighting.
I mean, it's possible that he just like, or the trauma of not the trauma of losing, like it's just more almost like a the blah blah blah. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD of when he lost his arm.
Yeah,
he fell off the train and got kidnapped by Hydra.
Yeah, I could see that as well. It definitely. I mean, it was very interesting that he just froze. He just stopped. Man, I'm hoping, after this, I hope they bring these characters. I don't know. I would love it. I think season 2 of this would make a lot of sense. Whereas, like with WandaVision, I don't think a season 2 really makes sense with that show. But with this show, I could easily see them picking up a season 2 and kind of like diving more into these characters.
Definitely. I definitely see them diving more into the characters.
But I feel like the Captain America movies have always like done a good job, more than I think the other MCU movies, of showing us like how the public is viewing everything that's going on.
Definitely. That's definitely the feels that I've been getting as well, like just from the Captain America movies, as well as the latest episodes of Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, where I feel like all the other movies kind of just, you see the hero do the thing, but with like, I mean, even Winter Soldier dealing with Shield and Shield shit. Civil War, dealing with Zemo in that movie, getting his perspective, getting the woman's perspective, getting the government's perspective. The woman, is the one that talked to Robert Downey Jr. at the beginning about her son dying. And even in the first Avenger, you kind of get like what it's like to have a hero because he's the first hero, what people are kind of seeing from that, how the government treats that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely like that they're continuing that theme with Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Absolutely. But it looks like we are nearing the end of the first episode of Two Bros and a Mouse. Thank you, AJ, for coming out here and doing this with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, anytime. I could talk Disney, Marvel all day, every day.
So this is going to be a continuing event on this Twitch page, and hopefully eventually we will be getting getting more content out, such as like, you know, releasing it to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or something like that. That's the dream. But so we definitely appreciate you guys being out here and listening to us ramble on about comic books and Disney stuff. We're just gonna close it out really just saying, you know, some of the things that are coming to Disney Plus and to Disney, you know, Disney's releasing here soon. So this week, the 23rd, they are releasing a bunch of, it looks like, Disney Junior things and regular Disney Channel things, but also this week is going to be the finale of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We are looking very much forward to that.
We'll touch on that greatly on the next episode.
Yes, on the next episode, we are going to be definitely touching a lot on the finale of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Also, Mighty Ducks Game Changers episode 5 is being released, as well as Big Shots episode 2.
Have you been watching Mighty Ducks?
I have not been watching Mighty Ducks. I've been a little too preoccupied with Falcon.
I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, but I honestly have heard not great things about it.
That's kind of where I've been too. And then, you know, Big Shot kind of also has been a little nah.
Yeah. That one I didn't have much hope for.
No, I didn't either.
But then I think the week after, the greatest thing is coming to Disney Plus, Disney DuckTales Season 3.
Yes. DuckTales. Disney's DuckTales is absolutely amazing.
I'm so sad this is the last, Season 3 is the last season, but really it's a good one. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely binge it on Disney Plus.
Definitely binge it, because, you know, you've got David Tennant voicing Scrooge. You've got the actress that played Donna Noble is in there as well. So a bunch of Doctor Who fans.
You got Ben Schwartz.
You got Ben Schwartz.
I will watch anything with that man in it.
Exactly. And then also Roger Hammerstein's Oklahoma is also coming to Disney Plus. So that's interesting, to say the least. And then also Marvel Studios Assembled. Looks like there's going to be a Marvel documentary getting released on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so that's the behind the scenes for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yep.
I don't know if you watched the one for WandaVision, but I definitely will be watching the one for Falcon and Winter Soldier as well.
That's why I was like, oh look, it's a Marvel Studios documentary, all about Marvel Studios and how it came to be. Not really.
Definitely a good watch, because they go into some definitely in the WandaVision one, they went into a lot of like little reasons that they went into a little bit of the reason why they used Ralph Bohner the way they used Ralph Bohner. And they kind of went into some of the struggles they actually had shooting around or getting it out around COVID. No. So I think they'll probably have a lot more of that in the Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely talk more about WandaVision at some point in this podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
So that, you know, obviously Loki and Black Widow when it comes out. And then, of course, Mighty Ducks episode 6 and Big Shot episode 3. That is all that is coming to Disney Plus this month. Obviously, stay tuned for next month. And it looks like our next episode is actually going to be on May 2nd. So tune in to this channel on May 2nd for the next episode of Two Bros and One Mouse. I am your host, Dink and Sink, and also my co-host here, AJSlabs. All right, guys, and this is us signing off.